Hello, welcome, Alba. Well, good to see you, sir.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Good. How are you, Alba? Is that Jim or James? Who just spoke?
Jason Skirtline. I'm a lieutenant with the Bureau of Risk Management.
Hi, Jason. I don't see you on here. Let's see. Where did you?
Uh, DC Osmus asked me to attend just in case she's unable to.
No, I know you're coming. You are absolutely welcome. I'm just trying to figure out because I'm looking at the Zoom screen and I don't see your name or I would have known it was you speaking. Give me one sec. Let me see. See, Albert Grill. That's weird. Okay.
Is it possibly because she forwarded me
Oh,
her
you know
invite?
why? Okay, Jason, did you use the participant link or did you use your unique participant link? I think that might be it.
No, yeah, that's exactly what happened. She shared her link to me.
Got it. Okay. All
Should
right.
I log out and have a new one sent to me? Would
Will
that be
you
better?
you have it? Let me send it to you again, and it's specific to you, and hers is specific to her. So let me do that for you again. Be on the lookout.
Okay. Let me log out then on just in case I'm blocking her.
Okay, you got it.
All right.
Lisa and Jason.
Can you hear me, Micah?
I can. Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
I can hear you, and we're just waiting for people to join.
Okay.
We have a few people already in the who have used the public link. Two people so far, Carla Guerra and Millie Cleveland so far. We're
Okay.
still 2 minutes shy of the half hour. And we do have two representatives from OPD. One is
Mhm.
going to be Jason, and the other is going to be Lisa, and they're usually at our commission meetings. So any information they would need to communicate, they'll be able to do that by joining your
Mhm.
meetings. Oh, hold on, it's Lisa. Welcome. So on the, I see the name Alba Hernandez, but I see, is that James I'm looking at? Mr. Wood, you're on mute, sir.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm not Alba.
Right. I figured you weren't. So I just wanted to welcome you. Thank you for joining us today. We're still just waiting for people to join. Is Alba going to join as well, or you're going to join instead?
Alba's going to join as well.
Okay. Got it. Thanks. We're just waiting for people to get on.
No way in the world I could pass for Alba in all different kinds of ways.
Welcome. Wait for Natasha. There's Carla, Millie. There's Alba. There's Alba. Hi, Alba. Welcome.
We've got twin Albas.
You've got twin Albas. So for your future meetings, because in this meeting, you all, I think, will be talking about what your future meeting cadence will be. You're going to use the same login information that you have now for each meeting. It is particular or specific to you. So if I sent one to you, Mr. Wood, and I think you might be logged in the Albas. I'm not sure, but I'll forward it to you again so that you can see that those are the ones that you can use moving forward.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Griot, I'm going to just kind of nudge a few people. If
Okay.
I follow your lead, sir. So whenever you want to lead, you just let me know and I'll go live. But
Well, let's get everybody admitted, and I will give an introduction, and you'll be available to keep notes or minutes.
I will have to turn it over to Natasha, who's going to close the meeting because I have a hard stop, and I will have the recording, so I'll be able to get some
Okay.
information from
All
the
right.
recording.
Okay.
I'm just making sure technically you guys are all set to run your meeting.
All right.
Who
Well,
just joined? Oh, Ricardo just joined. Let me see where Natasha is. I think you need Natasha.
we've been in transit almost 2 hours, Sean. This is always this way. Yeah, I know, but
Charlotte joined. Lisa, one more person looking for.
Can Jim rename himself though?
I can probably rename him. Let's see
Yeah.
if I can. Okay, Jim Wood. There you go. Magic. You didn't even have to try to figure it out. I know you didn't want to. You're like, please take care of that for me. You got it. Okay, we're just waiting for our counsel, Natasha. I just pinged her,
Here.
Commissioner Griot. So you're here, Natasha?
I'm here. Yes,
Oh,
hello.
perfect. So I'm sorry about that. We have everyone. So Natasha, before I turn it over to Commissioner Griot, I do have a hard stop. I want to
Okay.
make sure that you guys have everything technically in line, and you seem to have everyone. There are people in the attendees area, and I've given everyone, I've allowed them to speak. So when they want to speak, they're unmuted. If you see anybody else, just unmute them and let them speak. And I'm going to turn over ownership to you and to Ricardo, just to
Okay.
end the meeting. And it's being recorded, so we're good. Don't touch any of those buttons.
We will not.
Thank you. Let me go ahead and give that to you.
okay. In terms
Go ahead. Sorry, sir.
of the video display right now, I am seeing myself and the speaker. Is there a galley feature or something that the host can initiate so we can basically take a look at everybody?
Well, I can initiate it for my view, but I think you have to initiate it for yours. Let's try and see. Did that change for you or just for me?
It just changed for you.
Yeah,
And
so everybody has the opportunity to change the galley view for themselves.
Sir, do
So,
you have the three dots at the bottom of your screen? If you slide to the right, it should show everybody. At least it does on my Apple.
mhm.
all right.
Or if
Redots
you're
to
on
the
your
right.
phone, if you just slide to your left, you should see everyone there.
Mhm.
That's what I meant. The left, sorry.
You're muted if you're trying to speak.
Commissioner Griot? You there? Ricardo, do you see that you have
Yeah.
host privileges? Okay, I
Yep.
tried to do
Confirming that I
Natasha as
do.
well.
Thank you.
Okay,
All
and
right.
so far, Chair, I've unmuted or given the people who are in the audience access to speak. So if anybody else joins, you can just allow them to, and when you guys want them to speak, they can.
Okay, great. So let me go ahead and just jump right in while Commissioner Grillo figures out his microphone. We want to just welcome everyone to tonight's meeting and kick off of our immigration ad hoc. And I want to provide a little bit of context and thank you. It's great to see so many folks around the table. I know it looks like a lot of folks, but there's folks from same organizations as well too. So we'll talk about future meetings and trying to coordinate people's schedules. I actually like that we have a couple of backups because as we move through some of this stuff, we may not all be able to attend the meetings coming forward. So it'd be good to have a couple of people in the loop from each of your organizations or from your groups. And so, but yeah, I am Chair Garcia Costa, excuse me. And let me introduce myself for those that don't know me. I want to welcome everybody tonight. And essentially what we're going to be working through, and I'll be turning it over to Commissioner Grillo in a second to lead us through this process, is that we're going to be working through looking at the policy of DGO 010, and this was a policy that was submitted to the police department actually quite some time ago. And one of the things that's going to be part of our challenge is that we're really looking at a quick turnaround in terms of the time that has been put for us to be able to look at and approve a policy. So typically, when OPD presents policies to us, we have 120 days to look at such policy and be able to approve or make recommendations. I see the commissioner's hand up is up right now, but I'm not sure if it was up from earlier. So we're really going to be moving fast through this process and establishing dates. And I'm going to kick it to Commissioner Grillo to look at the agenda for and some of the goals for tonight. But before we do that, to buy a little bit more time, why don't we get into some introductions, really briefly go around and we'll say where we're from and also your name and what organization you're from so that we know who's here tonight with us. And I'll start with my left, and I'll move quickly, and I'll start with my left through Mr. Jim Wood.
They're all. My name's Jim Wood. I'm a native of Oakland, born and raised in Oakland. I'm 78 years old, practiced law for 55 years. And I was the primary drafter of the new City of Refuge ordinance that just passed first reading last night.
Nice. Welcome. Great to have you here tonight.
Good to be here.
All right. I will pass it to Miss Natasha Sani.
Thank
Good
you.
evening,
Thank you,
Natasha.
Chair. Good evening. I'm Natasha Sani. I'm a partner with the law firm of Garcia Hernandez and Sani, and a past Oakland resident, now displaced in Los Angeles. I've been serving as outside counsel. Our firm has been serving as outside counsel for the police commission for the last few years. And my colleague Katina Card typically staffs the commission, and I am standing in her place tonight.
Good evening. Welcome. All right. The next one up on my screen is Mr. Zervan Malouf. Good evening, Inspector General.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zervan Malouf, Inspector General for the City of Oakland. I've been in oversight on the federal level for well over 20 to 25 years. Thank you.
Excellent. DC Osmus, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. My name is DC, our Deputy Chief, Lisa Osmus, and Lisa is fine. The rank doesn't hold a whole lot for me. I've been a part or worked in the City of Oakland for the last 32 years. Last 26 have been as a police officer, and I've worked my way through the ranks to DC. And before that, I was a paramedic in the City of Oakland, starting in 94, roughly. Anyway, so I am now the Bureau of Risk Management Deputy Chief, and I am a liaison to commissioners and the Police Commission and the IG. And I also oversee policy and publications as well. So tonight, Chair, I'll be sitting in, but we're going to have some staff changes. So Lieutenant Skirton will sit in tonight as well. I have a hard stop at about 6. He'll take over for me. and then I will have a new person, but I'll get that to Micah so she has it for the group.
Excellent. Appreciate making the time to be here tonight and working with us on this important policy. We'll go to my right is Ms. Hernandez. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Alba Hernandez, organizer with Faith in Action East Bay and native of Oakland. Was not born here, but I'm a native of Oakland. I have a passion for my city, so I'm glad to be here with you all.
Great. Welcome. Next up, Pelayo Llamas III. Good evening.
Hi. I'm just here to watch today. I went to your previous meeting and I'm just an intern at the Coalition for Police Accountability. Thank you.
Oh, excellent. Welcome. How you doing? It was good to meet you the other night. We have Ann Jenks with us tonight as well.
Ann Jenks, Coalition for Police Accountability. Oakland is kind of like some small New Hampshire town where, your obituary at 83 says, although not a native, she's been here since she was 18 months old. I've been here for a couple of decades, so not a native. And I've been working on police accountability issues since 2015. I thought I'd get involved in a nice little campaign they were doing that I thought they were gonna get smoked on. And then instead it passed. So that's what happens.
Good evening. Welcome. Great to have you here. We have Miss Millie Cleveland as well. Good evening, Millie.
Hi, I'm Millie Cleveland. I am not a native of Oakland, but I've lived here since coming out of college. I am a retired union organizer, and after retiring from SEIU 1021, I became active in the Coalition for Police Accountability, and I've been on the steering committee since 2021.
Great. Always happy to have you here. And then we have Lieutenant. Did I get the title right? I always mess it up, man.
Yeah, that's me. It's Lieutenant Jason Skurdlant. Like Deputy Chief Osmus, we were in the same academy, so we graduated in 2000 with Oakland. I work for her in the Office of Internal Accountability, and happy to be here, and hopefully I can help out a little bit.
Nice, great to have you here with us. Thank you for making the time as well. And then lastly, I'm going to hand it over to our Chief of Staff, who I see with her hand up. She's going to give us a couple of house cleaning, and then we'll turn it over to Commissioner Greer to move us forward for tonight. I know we have limited time, so we will get straight to it.
So welcome, everyone. Yes, Mr. Wood.
I'm brain dead after a 7-hour city council meeting last night. But I wanted to, I'm not Alba, but I am a leader of Faith in Action East Bay.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, everyone. So just really briefly, the structure of this ad hoc consists of participants who are formally a part of the ad hoc, the subject matter. So that'll be Commissioner Grillo, Commissioner or Vice Chair Booker, Chair Garcia Acosta, James Wood, Alba Hernandez, Lisa Osmus or Representative and Jason from OPD, and Natasha and myself essentially for support. We want to make sure that people have a voice, so that's why we've unmuted those that are in the public, but the official ad hoc are those names that I mentioned. I will turn it over now to Commissioner Grillo, who's chair of this ad hoc.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's great. First of all, let me apologize for having to take this meeting in my car. I was on Highway 1 earlier today, and I got behind a pretty severe accident, and we've now been traveling almost 2.5 hours to get to Oakland. So please accept my apologies, but it was somewhat unavoidable. First, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Some materials were sent out earlier, several days ago. Micah, who amongst us received the materials?
everyone that's on the actual ad hoc, as well as our entire subscriber base. And as another courtesy, I've put the link to those resources in your chat right here. So if you need to access that link, you can access it here.
Okay. Just for all of our benefit, just very quickly recite what you sent to us, because I don't have my paperwork on this is at home.
Sure. There's a city police ICE policy matrix. There's a council member Wong's amendment to the ordinance reaffirming the city's of Oakland sanctuary city policy that came in today from Ms. Jenks. There's a CPA proposed ordinance. There's a Denver ICE EO, and I guess enabling ordinance. There's a memo from Council Member Wong's office for the immigration policy, and also the actual policy final draft. There's the memo that accompanied that. There's a public safety proposal and then another public safety proposal. Those are the documents that are in the resource folder for everyone to access.
Okay. All right. I had an opportunity to look at these materials last night, and I guess what I was struck by was there is actually a lot of material and there's a lot that has been done. But it raises the larger question of what do we want to do with this policy? That's one thing. And the other question is what's reasonably possible. And I will have some more comments on that later. I'd like to hear from the various committee members and community members attending. What should we be looking at in terms of this policy? I'd like to hear your views, and then I will weigh in based on my reading of the materials and what I've heard you say. And then you can just jump right in.
And real quick, Commissioner Grill, before we hear from community members, one thing I do want to just kind of frame a bit as well is, and call it what it is, right? There was a policy that was put forth by OPD, and we really, and I don't know, DC Osmith, if you want to have a chance just to give us a little bit of background, or if folks feel comfortable enough with where we're all at, but essentially how DGO 010 came to development. And it was something that you initially had put some resources in and worked with the commission in terms of flagging some of these old lexical, I think it was policy 415, that was kind of giving some conflicting messaging. And then we wanted to clear up and have a more clear, straightforward policy that was aligned with the city's administrative instructions, and also the recent mayor's, she had a citywide, I think, I forgot what it was called, what you called it at that mandate at that time around the ICE and how to operate within city buildings and employees and such of that nature, right? So at that time, it was like, great, we appreciate it. You guys put it together, incorporated. It was exactly what we had wanted to see and discussed from that perspective. But given the complexities of what we've seen around the nation, what we know with different partners locally within the county, and some of the best practices that folks have been advocating for, we also saw this as an opportunity to really be able to try to incorporate some of these things to have the strongest leading policy and really be proud of something that we have. Obviously, we have a lot of time that we have lost, and that's something that I want to be able to acknowledge on the commission's end, that we had another commissioner that had departed that was supposed to be leading this process. And so we're really getting a late start in this. And so we're asking Commissioner Grillo and our resources internally with Ms. Sani and her firm to really turn things around in terms of how are we going to be able to establish and have a conversation because there's a lot of different interests, right? And we're just going to name it for what it is. City Council presented a document and there was a bunch of stuff that they wanted to see to be able to include it, right? Community is always going to press and advocate and push for the things that they want to see included in the policy as well, too. And for the commission, I think it's an opportunity for us to learn and have honest dialogue and really similar. I see this DC Osmus as something like we did with the Pursue policy, to really be able to hear from community, engage the community, and then be able to work and learn, just like we learned many things around those operations that we would this time around as well, for us as a commission to be able to learn, why, or if there are things that OPD could adopt from these recommendations, or if they can, why or why not, right? And really go through this process and build something together. The challenge is that we have a very finite amount of time, and we're either going to be looking at a couple of different options that we could discuss down the road once we start really figuring out where we're at with things. But I just wanted to put that out there because the challenge is really going to be able to look at these different recommendations, learn from each other, and just try to figure out, is there something that OPD is going to adopt and then have to take back? And it's a whole other process at that point, right? And other eyes that have to look at it. Or is it something that we just provide recommendations from this group, depending on where we kind of land on some of these issues? Because we may agree on some things and we may just not be able to find some common ground on some things either. So I just wanted to put that out there before we really start jumping into this discussion. So
let's hear from Deputy Chief Asmus, and I think that's a good starting point, Ricardo.
Okay, so just for everybody, Chair, you kind of took most of it and explaining everything. So initially, obviously, with the national leadership, agree, disagree. I'm not going to get into those politics with anybody. But we at the City of Oakland wanted to make sure that our public sees that we are not going to assist ICE in any of their civil or immigration or any of their other things. The only time, and it wouldn't even be an ICE operation, the only time we would ever have anything to do is in a criminal, and we don't provide any information. We don't give it. We don't give it to the jails. We don't give it to the sheriff. Our sheriff in Alameda County does not provide any information to ICE either. So we really want to make sure that everybody understands that we do believe in the sanctuary city and the policies within the city. And so when we presented Lexipol 415, and neither Chief Beer or I are big fans of Lexipol. So when we presented it, we also wanted to bring it back up to our department general orders because they fit more in style with our NSA and our much higher level of policy creation and work. But in doing so, when we presented it, Commissioner, I believe it was Jackson Chastain, noticed that there was some confusing wording in part of the Lexipol policy. And so I think it was a great catch on her part. And so did Chief Beer. So taking that recommendation from that meeting chair, we redid the policy, brought it up back to a general order. It's more in line with department policy and how we do things. It also sets at the level. And in doing that, presenting it back to the commission, just showing the changes, you decided to do an ad hoc so we can hear from the community, which I think is a great idea because I think it's really, really important for everybody to have some input. I will do my best to advise and Commissioner Grillo, I will not step on your toes on law, but just in the enforcement actions of it where we can and can't, right? We cannot interfere with ICE in their operations. It's a federal felony, so we can't engage with them, stop them, unless we believe it's a crime is occurring, and then at that point, we will have to make that adjustment, right? So just kind of those things, but I really am kind of excited to hear from the community and what ideas they may have and how we may be able to put that into policy or even recommendations to move forward. So I hope that's a very high, fast view of everything.
Okay, well, since you brought that up, one of the things that leaped out at me from the things I read was a suggestion that, or in reading them all together, there was a suggestion to me that some of what was being asked for could put our officers in the position of being in a position where they, if they took certain actions in terms of enforcement actions, that because our policy required that, you would put the individual police officer in the position of either having to violate a city order, a department order, or violating federal law. And I, for one, don't think that that's something we should aspire to send every police officer out on the streets with a Hobson's choice and something that they really can't do, if that's kind of what you were alluding to, Deputy Asmith.
Yes, sir.
Was that a yes?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was getting there.
Let's hear from other folks on this, because I think that's pretty important. And let me just preface what I'm going to say by saying that I thought there were a lot of good things in all the policies. There's a lot of things that you don't have to do that are consistent with the sanctuary city status of our city, which are not violations or potential violations of federal law, and which don't give the federal authorities an excuse to come in to Oakland willy-nilly and try to do what they've done in Minnesota and other places. For example, and this is partly my judicial background, I really favor things in these ordinances where, when you were talking about providing certain types of information, you were talking about providing it in response to a judicial warrant. You get a judicial warrant, that's provide the information. You get an administrative warrant, no, it does not. And don't get me started on the fiction that is an administrative warrant on some of these things. It's trying to paper over the obligation to actually have a judicial officer issue a warrant. So I think those are the things we should be focusing on, what we can do legally and what we shouldn't do, because it puts us in my view, in an unnecessary confrontation with federal authorities, A, that we can't win, and B, which presents to the individual police officers a completely untenable situation. Damned if they do, damned if they don't. Now, that's a lot of words. Let me open it up for some comment on that.
Chair,
Oops. Ms. Hernandez, I think I saw your hand up, and then also Ms. Jenks has her hand up, and then
I think Jenks was first, and then I can go after.
Yeah, I don't have Miss Jenks's picture, but you are on audio. So could we hear from you, Miss Jenks?
Yes, sir. A couple of things just generally. One is in terms of the council and what the council passed. In talking to some of the council members and their staff, they were very, very constrained in what they believed that they were able to pass. They seem to have gotten some very interesting legal advice constraining them, that it was instructing staff if they made too many policy statements. And so a lot of what they did, that's the reason so much of it is labeled a restatement of existing policy. And even the amendments that Councilmember Wong submitted yesterday, her staff said to me, these are not for police. These are for other staff, other city employees. I did talked to the staff about whether or not they would be able to come to this, since they felt that they weren't allowed to create policy as council members. Unfortunately, her chief of staff is on vacation today. And I also couldn't talk to anybody in the ad hoc among the commissioners if it was appropriate to have them. And I also just wanted to clarify something that Commissioner Garcia Costa said about that if OPD were going to go back and adopt it, that would be a different process. I've never really witnessed that before when the police commission was drafting a policy. So I would at some point like to hear what the distinction is in that process, as opposed to the commission creating a process in conjunction with OPD, because they're participating in this ad hoc. And so there's a back and forth discussion. So I'd like to hear the difference between those two processes. I think that what I've heard a lot from people in Oakland is I think that the concerns fall into two buckets. One is the bucket of how is OPD going to engage with federal agents when federal agents are in Oakland. And I don't think anybody is expecting to turn Oakland into West Virginia, where we have shootouts with federal agents. West Virginia is not West Virginia anymore. But what we are interested in is at least understanding how that looks. If somebody comes and they are wearing nothing and they tell me they're a federal agent, will OPD seek to identify them? For example, if they get a 911 call that somebody's being kidnapped, will they in fact ensure that things are being done properly? And obviously, if somebody says I'm a federal agent and I'm not going to comply, that's a separate issue. But are they at least going to attempt to ensure that we know kind of the basics of what's going on? And then that second bucket is really a question about how is OPD going to engage when there are actions, enforcement actions that are happening in Oakland. Often what we see is ICE kind of instigating things with the crowd and then looking to local law enforcement to clean up the mess that they created through their instigation. And so we want very much to understand what crowd control looks like, what the instructions on crowd control and traffic enforcement are when it comes to ICE enforcement actions. And those are two, I think, general buckets that the people in the community that we've spoken to are very concerned about, would like to have real clarity on, because even if we don't necessarily like the clarity is very helpful. And a lot of the questions that the community has asked over the past year of OPD, we really haven't gotten very clear answers. We were told at one point that there was a policy in place. We were told that that the officers had been trained on ICE interactions. We were unable to ever receive the training bulletin or the materials upon which they were trained. Then Chief Beer came and made a series of representations about how things would be conducted with ICE, but they weren't written down, and the OPD policy proposal doesn't really reflect some of the things that were said there. So we really want some clarity, first and foremost. And the only other thing that I would say is when people talk about best practices, one of the things that I think has made people very concerned is that in what we have seen in other cities, even sanctuary cities, is local law enforcement being very ending up really working on behalf of ICE, right? Either through the traffic control, through the crowd control. We've seen local law enforcement arrest clergy that were praying in front of ICE. And we really want to understand what it's going to look like and what instructions OPD will have. In terms of the discussions about best practices, I sent the Denver ICE ordinance because in the conversations around this ad hoc, it was being mentioned repeatedly. And so I thought, well, obviously this is a document people are going to be mentioning and discussing. I should add that to the folder. But best practice is always a challenge, because often what I was told a long time ago, actually talking to somebody in San Francisco, I wanted to know about a policy that they had worked on. And they said, never look at the final policy. Look at the original policy that was drafted before we had to go into negotiations with the police union, right? If you want to understand the best practice, it's not the practice that exists. It's what we originally discussed before the politics and the pressure and the police union got involved. So I think we always want to be a little bit careful in terms of looking to other cities. And we should start our discussions with a question about what it is that we want to achieve here.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just want to state that, well, I appreciate Jenks, your comments, because it relates to what I was actually going to ask, with regards to what and how OPD will be interacting now that the ordinance it's in its final stages, and looking at the policy. One of the things that is not clear to me is what will happen when, again, as Anne stated, when ICE gets here, and how much will OPD intervene to actually, one, identify, two, reiterate our sanctuary policies that are in place. And with that being said, I do have to say I was at the Mayor's Protect the Town task force meeting today, and while we were there, a CLEP had received a call that ICE was congregating at Eastmont Mall, down in the parking lot downstairs. And community had actually verified. And it has been verified that in the past, OPD has escorted ICE out of Eastmont Mall, being that they're there right by the police department. So now that we do have the resolution from the county, and we have the resolution, and the ordinance in Oakland, as well as the executive order, what is OPD going to do in these instances? Will they be escorted out of the parking lot? And when I say escorted, it's to let them know that our ordinance says you cannot be on city property, or in county property. And again, the way community viewed it, that particular, or the event where I say that they escorted them out, is that they were helping them and leading them somewhere else where they were going to do actual ICE enforcement. So that's a question that I have with regards to how now the ordinance will be implemented, as well as policy that is created.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Jim Wood. I want to take a moment to talk about the ordinance, because I think it's a good ordinance. I think that it provides the touchstone for the shaping of whatever policy that we have. And I like the comment too that the policy should not only be a matter of policy, but it should be a message to the community about who the police are, what they will do, and what they won't do. Just by way of the ordinance, some of the amendments were mentioned, but there were earlier amendments to the ordinance that really make it very clear and very simple about what it is that OPD can do and can't do. And that came up in section 2.21. General prohibitions are there, but there's also an important accountability provision in there as well that I think that we might want to use as a macro for whatever accountability provisions that we have. And the accountability is that in the event OPD assists in an ICE investigation, detention, arrest, or other operation, OPD shall explain the facts giving rise to its action in a written report to the Public Safety Committee at its earliest opportunity. That's one form of accountability. I also want to mention too that when Councilmember Wong asked Faith in Action to draft an ordinance, we began with the bulletproof ordinance. And by that, I mean, we began with the City and County of San Francisco ordinance. When the ordinance was enacted, the Trump administration threatened to take away all funding, federal government funding to the city and county. City and county sued in federal district court with an amicus from Oakland, Seattle, and a couple other cities, and they won. The Trump administration appealed to the Ninth Circuit. City and county won. So Trump appealed to the Supreme Court, withdrew its appeal, so it won in the Supreme Court. It's bulletproof. There is no threat of funding, and it recognized the power and ability of the city to do the ordinance in the sanctuary city. This is critical. For the very first time, Oakland will have a law, not an executive order, or not just executive order or a resolution. Resolution is simply a good idea. You know, if you had a resolution, don't drive through it, stops, red light, that's a good idea. It's not enforceable. With an ordinance, this is enforceable. And the general prohibitions for OPD, which I think we might want to use as a beginning point for a policy, or at least the outline for a policy, because this will be the law in Oakland, the enforceable law in Oakland. And that is that OPD employees should not provide law enforcement assistance and so on. There's an accountability provision. And the next section is on the civil detention matters. OPD shall not respond to a federal immigration officer's notification request. And there used to be a whole bunch of exceptions. Those exceptions were deleted. They're gone. So we have the absolute prohibition: OPD employees shall not respond to the federal immigration officer's notification request, period, end of story. It's like I say, to me, it's really important. Alba mentioned the presence of ICE in Eastmont. We also learned through work at Indivisible East Bay that Home Depot was hiring OPD officers to come in and monitor the work that Indivisible was doing in order to protect day laborers. And, you know, there's news recently, the last month, 10,000 people were detained in 5 days. 10,000 people were detained in 5 days. It's becoming a battle now. And they've got billions and billions of dollars, even though, you know, that was funded under the Big Beautiful. They're not showing up en masse like they did in San Francisco. They're showing up in Eastmont Mall. And they're targeting. So the message to the community, I think, is that whatever policy that we come up with, we say plain and simple to the community: OPD will not do anything to assist in any form of ICE operation. Oh, one other point too. The draft policy mentions that ICE is the enforcement. There are 3 different agencies involved in immigration enforcement. I think that we got to make clear that do specific reference to what those agencies are. Otherwise, if Homeland Security or Border Patrol comes and says, help us, well, under the policy, we can help them. Okay.
Thank you, Jim, for that very important information and just moving the conversation along. I know we're limited in time, but I think it's very important. What we're hearing is that there's some tangible things from the community that it sounds like the more clarity we have and the more it's spelled out. I know for us, it'll also be helpful when we talk about accountability provisions and what that looks like if things are broken, right? Then we need to be able to understand what was written down, what was clear, and what policies were broken, right? At that point, right? If we're looking at things on the back end from discipline. So I think, I don't think we're that far along. It looks like we've we've really done a lot of good things in the right direction. And I think what we're really hearing now is just having clarity on several points of, especially, when it comes to just, what we're seeing and where we know it's going to show up and how it's going to show up in our community. I saw Millie Cleveland with her hand up, and then we'll go to IG Maloof next.
I just had a quick question. Who will follow up on the situation that Ms. Hernandez described and find out from the officers that assisted the ICE or escorted the ICE officers what direction they got and why they thought it was not a violation of the sanctuary policy for them to escort ICE? How will we get a follow-up of this specific example?
I'm not, so this is, I guess, Subcommittee Chair Rio. I'm not sure that's within our purview to follow up. I think that sort of issue would be something, frankly, that should be raised before the police commission. It doesn't have to do with the ordinance that we're putting together. It's an operational infraction. So that would be my thought on that. So I just throw that out there because I want to keep our focus here on the ordinance. I want to keep our focus here on the policy, and at this point, not try to deal with, say, any past infractions before we have a policy.
Well, I only raise it because I think that the ordinance, part of what the ordinance should include is specific directions so that officers know what is within their purview and what isn't within their purview.
If you're saying it's a delicate dance to draft that language in the ordinance so that it is both meaningful and effective, I agree with that. But I think that we need to keep our focus on our task at hand right now, which is to comment upon and develop a policy. That would be my preference. Let me, at the risk of being overbearing, let me mention one other thing that jumped out at me when I read the materials yesterday, and has come up again. I think when we talk in general terms about ICE not being able to be on Oakland property, we have to be more definite. We have to be more defined, because technically the streets and thoroughfares, boulevards, and rights of way are Oakland property. And anybody with legal business has a right to, say, be on streets, rights of way, thoroughfares, and such. I think what we're really talking about here is ICE doesn't have the authority, and we don't recognize the authority, and we don't authorize city employees to give ICE access to city property or information solely by virtue of their status. If they have a warrant, that's one thing. If there's a statute which says the city has to, that's something else. But I think we need to really talk about fine tuning the term our property, so that it doesn't look like we are singling out ICE. And let me make it clear, I'm no friend of ICE, but we're not singling out ICE and telling them that they don't have a right to be where everyone else in the nation has a right to be. We have to be very careful about that. It weakens whatever policy it has, and it provides an excuse, I believe, for heavy-handed intervention, which I do not want to see. Dead silence. That's either a very good thing or a very bad thing.
There's heads nodding. So and certainly agree, Commissioner. I'm going to go to IG Maloof, and then I see Ann Janks with her hands up, and then I would say in about 2 to 3 minutes, let's discuss a couple of things that we want to see is if there's anybody that's missing here that we still need to invite, other subject matter experts. And again, there's going to be community folks joining us that we want to be able to hear from, but the panelists are really going to be charged with doing some work behind the scenes, drafting some stuff, and really working through the chair of this committee and OPD to see if we could work on some stuff together to reach some common ground. IG Maloof, you're off mute.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So my office, the Office of Inspector General, reviewed OPD's general order, and we compared it with practices from 13 California law enforcement agencies and requirements under SB 54, the Values Act, the Trust Act, and the Truth Act. In addition, we reviewed concerns regarding Councilmember Wong, and we identified 6 policy gaps where the DGO does not yet align with state law or peer agency best practices. If we have the time, I'll go through each one of those 6. No?
Hold that thought, because I think that's where we want to head to. We want to put a pin in that because these are some of the tangible things in terms of reviewing. And thank you, sir. That's very, very super helpful in terms of the first step, because I think that was one of the things that we're going to give some homework to. And so you got a head start on that. So put a pin on that for right now, but it's great to know that took place, because that's a huge step forward in terms of, I think, some tangible things that we could accomplish here in this group. But I didn't want to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we don't need to get into those. But is there anything else? So again, can you just give us again, the review?
Yeah. So again, we review these areas. We do have 6 concerns to make sure that we want to make sure that DGO 010 does align with SB 54, the Trust Act, and the Truth Act, as well as some of the concerns that Councilmember Wong had. Whenever we're ready, we can dive into that, but I'll hold off comment from it.
No, great. I think part of what we're going to do for next steps is start synthesizing that all together so we can review that and then have some discussions. I think that'll probably be a good starting point for our next meeting to really have some discussions around some of these. But I don't want to jump the gun. Let me move to Ann, and then I'll pass it back to Commissioner Grillo. Thank you again, IG.
So I just, this issue about city property versus not city property, a lot of what the city has focused on is the issue of city property. And that's what Councilmember Wong was trying to extend in terms of the kind of the buffer area around city buildings. And a lot of the interest is the rest of the city, right? And great that we make sure that we're being clear that we're talking about city property versus, calling International Boulevard city property. Let's by all means clarify it, but a lot of time has been spent, and every single time a council member or a city staff person said, oh no, or OPD said, oh, we've got something that addresses how OPD officers engage with ICE in Oakland, it turned out when you got the paper on it that they weren't talking about in Oakland, they were talking about in city buildings or on city property. So really one of the big issues here, along with clarifying whatever city property is what's happening everywhere else, because there's been a lot of discussion about what happens in city buildings, but most of us spend most of our days not in city buildings, except for those of us who went to the council meeting last night. So I mean, that for us is, I think, a thing. The one thing that I would ask in terms of these meetings, this is the disadvantage of being on the internet instead of in person, is it would be very helpful to have some way of understanding who's in this room. And I did want to ask DC Osmus, is there a policy person assigned? Is Lieutenant Skurland going to be here consistently? What's that looking like?
Sorry, Chair, I was just kind of waiting. I didn't know if you want me to answer or just hang on or so actually, this is Lieutenant Skirtland's last week with me. He is officially retiring. So that's why I had him sitting in because he's helping me take notes. And I am trying to sit into this whole meeting because I oversee policy and publications, Ms. J. So I am hopefully my policy and publication person. Uh, Officer Tulsi is being promoted to sergeant, and she'll be going back out into the field as a sergeant. And I am going to be getting another officer in, so I will be catching them up for everybody. So I will actually be the primary for this policy. I will have a policy person here. And I am desperately gonna try and make all of these ad hoc meetings so that you guys have a consistent person, right? And so I will do my best to be here, and I hope that helps a little bit.
All right, thank you, and thank you, and Jenks. Noted. We're taking notes, and we are recording this meeting too. So we're going to be going back and looking at it and synthesizing these notes, as well as some of the review that the IG's office has already started to kick us off with. And I do want to apologize. My screen was on a mode where I didn't realize that we had other participants and other community members also joining us today. Really quickly want to take a moment. We have a member of the community with her hands up. Miss Risa, how you doing, Risa? Good to see you with us today. So I want to make sure that we could take her off mute, take her question, but also want to welcome David Campbell and Carla Guerra that's with us today. So if you can, we would love for you all to come off of mute real quickly and introduce yourselves so that we know who's in the room. And then we'll be wrapping it up with next steps and setting some dates for us to meet again.
Yes, I'm Risa Jaffe. I've lived in Oakland about 45 years and have been following the police commission pretty much since its inception. I just want to second Ann Jenks' comment about community asking and the example she gave about if there's masked people and there's a 911 call, somebody's being kidnapped. Because the thing that I've heard in different meetings, we can't interfere with federal officers. And the thing that never gets clear to me is, how do we know that's a federal officer? It seems what I just feel like is happening is an assumption is being made that that's a federal officer. And I want clarity in this policy that it has to be identified. A person has to be identified as a federal officer. In order for that, we can't interfere with a federal officer to be in play. Otherwise, it's just a person. And I keep feeling like we are skirting that issue.
Thank you, Risa. All right. And then just want to welcome David Campbell and Carla Guerra as well, too. It's always great to have community members here as well.
Hi, Ricardo,
serving,
this is Carla
participating.
Guerra. Thank you so much. Carla Guerra, Policy and Advocacy Senior Manager at the Unity Council. I just came back actually from the Protect the Town Task Force meeting today. We had Mayor Lee as well. So this is great to see how this meeting is complementing the work that the City of Oakland is doing as well. I have been also tracking the Police Commission's meeting since its inception. And as the Unity Council, we have held press conferences as well in partnership with many of you and state leaders. So we are really grateful to have this work happening. And we are also pleased to have Resilient Fruitvale also as part of this work. So please feel free to count with us as partners. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Carla. And, we really welcome community members so we could all learn through this process, have it be a learning process and work on this together. But also if Unity Council or anybody else has some recommendations, you could get at me offline if folks want to formally join on the panel to help us with some of the lift as well, too, with this or any other future policies. And welcome, David. I'm sorry, I know we're running out of time, but want to make sure that we had an intro with everybody that was here tonight. David, can you hear us? Did you want to come off mute and say hello? All right, let's move on for now. Commissioner Grillo, we are wrapping up. We're up at time now. And because we have a tight timeline and we have a lot of folks, we're hoping that either folks from their organization or their designee can make meetings in these next couple of weeks. And we want to be able to work with our chief of staff to either put out a doodle poll to get folks' availability. I know DC Austin, maybe me and you could touch base because I know you're stretched thin and pulled in a lot of direction. So right now, and so we want to make sure that we're meeting at a time that works for you, so that we can look at some of the recommendations from the IG's office, look at some of the materials that folks have provided. I think there's some real common themes that we keep on hearing ever since, from commission meetings to these meetings that folks just want some tangible clarity on what folks can and cannot do. And that way also, I think from the commission standpoint, it gives us clear direction in terms of policy and policy violations of what folks can and cannot do as well. Right. And I know there may be things that are already that may already say that within the policy or within, the administrative instructions or the protect the town. And I think just for OPD's own policy, it's going to be really important just to clearly spell that out as well too. So hopefully we could get to that point in these next couple of weeks. Commissioner Grillo, looks like you're stationed now. You want to take us away for next steps?
3 hours of traffic and I'm finally here. So,
Glad you are there safe. So we do have 14 participants tonight. It's a lot of folks here, and we welcome folks to observe the meeting. I know there's maybe some work that the panelists may pick up between now and our next meeting, but I want to kick it to you for next steps and to close us out.
Okay, so what's the ask, Ricardo?
We need to get a date or the process in which with the panel members of getting a next meeting date, and maybe we could do a doodle poll with Micah. The problem is typically we usually do like the first and third Mondays or have a sequence like that, but we only have so many weeks these next couple of weeks to put some recommendations together. So we're hoping to get some dates on between now and I'm sorry, Micah had the dates. I don't have them in front of me in terms of when we need to be able to have some recommendations in front of the commission by.
By July 23rd. It has to be agendized by July 23rd for the July 23rd board commission meeting.
Okay. So it'd be great to at least get 2 or 3 meetings, and I think IG has got us to a good start in terms of having some stuff to be able to review and start having discussions around, seeing if we can find some common ground, and then being able to incorporate some of the notes and common things that we heard from the community tonight as well.
Yeah. And do you think that, IG, do you think you could share the policy, the 6 recommendations to address the policy gaps in advance of our next meeting? Because it would give, I think, the OPD a chance and the rest of us a chance to get in quick.
Absolutely, I can do that. Just need to know who to send it to, and I'll make sure it's sent.
Send it to Monica and she can distribute it.
Yeah.
Will do.
Thank you so much.
And I don't think I or Ricardo needs to see it before it goes out. That's your work product, and we've asked you to do the task, so just do it and give it to Micah.
Awesome. For the ad hoc panelist members, will it be easier for us to just put out a doodle poll and put out some potential dates, and be able to try to land on something that the majority of us are available on?
It would be for me.
All right, we'll work through Micah, and then Lisa, I'll have Micah work with you because I know you guys have a lot of limited time, so we'll try to get some general dates that work for you to put out to the group.
I think you may want to try to get at least two meetings next week.
I think that's a good idea.
And Judge Grillo, maybe what we can do too is we may be able to have a commission meeting and start having just like a smaller working group so we can start working on a couple of things before we all meet as a group today. I mean, with everybody here. Okay. Cool. Sounds good.
Are we done for today? All right, look for the poll then, and we'll see you all next week, probably twice.
And then for our community members, once we nail down those dates, we'll look out. Michael will be putting it out to all our subscribers so that folks can tune in and have their comment and be heard as well too. Be able to learn with us all.
Please respond to the doodle right away so that we can get it going. Thank
I
you.
just want to acknowledge the question that Anne put in the chat. Who's invited to participate on the ad hoc?
Okay.
There's a list. I don't have the list here, but we can share it for sure.
There's a couple of community members we're waiting to hear from. If anybody is interested from the public today, or if anybody has any additional ideas, please reach out to me and Chair Grillo of this group, and we could connect them. We're always happy to have folks that want to work with us and play a little bit more of a formal role in this group, especially if they bring a certain level of subject matter expertise that will be helpful with our discussions here.
Thank you so much for that, Chair. But what I'm confused about is how would we know who we should recommend if we don't know who has been invited?
Yeah, so I think pretty much all of our initial invites are here today.
How about if we just have Micah send out a list to everyone who was here as to who showed up and who was invited? That would be just incorporated into whatever minute we do for this.
Okay, that could work. But I also think that Anjanx needed to know as well if there's other specific community members that were invited to be on the panel that we're still waiting to hear back from. So
or
I think
who said no, but we can't tell you who's missing if you haven't told us who you've talked to.
We'll get you that information, Ms. Jenks.
Well, I hope it's not just me, Judge. Thank you.
We'll get the information to everybody. As soon as we get off of this call, I'm going to email Micah and that will be done.
Sounds good. All right. We're a couple minutes over. I want to respect folks' time, but really happy to have everyone here tonight and look forward to our follow-up emails.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.